Hello, amazing wellness coaches. If you don't know me, my name is Rachel Feldman, and I have been in your shoes. I think back to when I started my business back in 2010. I had no time because I had little munchkins, which are now, of course, 12 and 14. So they're not so little, but I really understand how difficult it can be to build your wellness business, address all the different compartments of your wellness business for growth, such as content creation, consistency in digital marketing, and most importantly, list building. What I want to talk about before I show you exactly how you can use this is some of the struggles I'm seeing. A lot of coaches these days are depending solely on social media and digital marketing, thinking that if they post on Instagram or you spend this time making a perfect Instagram feed, that everyone's just going to find you. Or, many of the other things that we do that everyone tells us to do. Truth is, it does work. It just takes time to be extremely, niche specific, very clear on your message. That's what allows growth in the digital space. And I know this because I struggled for that year 1 and 2 to get extremely clear in my messaging. And once I did, by working with somebody who helped me to get extremely clear, my visibility in the online space tripled, 5x. 10x, but it requires that massive clarity in order to save yourself a lot of frustration and a lot of time and a lot of money. What I have always said, and something that I found worked really well, is number one, your list building does not have to just be dependent on if the image and the message is going to attract your ideal client. I want you actually to do an approach that many of us who built our business back in like 2010 or 11 or 12 or 13, we followed old school approaches, OG. And that means that we didn't have social media at this level. I think back then there was 1 or 2 places that you could do a live, but it wasn't to where it is now. And I see a lot of us depending on these platforms with frustration. So step number 1, I want you to actually write down on a piece of paper 10 people, 20 people who already know and trust you. These are people in your local community or people that you've even worked with yourself, your acupuncturist, your chiropractor, the gym you go to. Maybe you have a homeopath. These are service providers that would love for somebody like you to come in and either do a presentation to their existing audience. Even back in the day, we were thinking brick and mortar. The majority of brick and mortar is moving into the online space, pandemic or not. This was already a forward momentum that we've been seeing for years because we see amazing platforms for e-learning. Now we've just been pushed to a place that we were already going. So these places that are locally either are going to be doing Zoom meetings, they're either going to have maybe a Facebook group, they're creating visibility too. And most importantly, they're looking for people like you to provide content. So I want you to write down who actually either has a brick and mortar space that you can pitch to and say, hey, I would love to come in and do this workshop, or I would love to write a newsletter for your list. I can put this gift in there, and of course, do even a pre-recorded video on ways to boost your immune. You can, of course, take the content that we have, and I'm going to show you exactly, what it looks like on the download. I already put the link for the opt-in page, which is why I've been so busy for the last 2 weeks. But you can, of course, make this specific for your niche. 7 ways to boost your immune system when you have leaky gut, 7 ways to boost your immune when you struggle with hormone, anxiety, stress. There's so many different ways to niche and get really specific and polarized down to that ideal client. Furthermore, if you say to them, I want to do a newsletter, it looks like this. You just say, hey, I've been wanting to reach out to you. My name is, I specialize in, and I have this amazing free gift. I came into your health food store and I've been buying consistently. Would I be able to, write a newsletter and we can figure out a partnership where I'm promoting you and I am able to give this amazing gift to your existing list. That is getting you in front of people that have an existing list already. I did this with juice shops. That led to, of course, paid opportunities. I did this with spas. I even did this with hairdressers. I went into any place that, of course, was local because I knew I needed to build my referral network. This allowed me to have consistent income that was coming into my one-on-one, which was my goal, but it also allowed me to have visibility in my local community. And I became the one that people reached out to. Hey, we saw you, speak, or this person at this health food store told us that you're the great person to have come in and teach. And that led to consistent joint venture opportunities where I had the programs. I was using the programs that we, of course, create at yourhealthcoachbiz.com. I didn't stop my health coaching business and teaching until about 5 years ago. So that's a solid 5 years where those groups that I was doing joint venture locally turned into a consistent one-on-one business and turned into consistent referrals. And what I will tell you is the biggest money maker is those referrals. It's also going to save you so much money when you do have to make really pivotal decisions on spending money on Facebook ads, spending money, to have more visibility and exposure, bringing in a virtual assistant team to maybe handle social media, you will, of course, be ahead of the game from everyone else. Furthermore, the next piece, podcasts, when I first started, they were just starting to get really, I would say people were starting to really listen to them and forget the year. But I went into different groups. I looked for podcast opportunities in Facebook. And I started, of course, making myself known as this gut coach that worked with a lot of people like me who were perfectionists, high standard, tend to be analysis paralysis kind of people, and really marked myself as that gut specialist with, families that of course had kids with food allergies, kids who were, the persona of me, which was that kid when I, was younger that had gut issues, stomach aches, all that, and positioned myself, of course, to be that detox specialist and that person who really worked with families that needed either early intervention, like my own for my kids, food allergies, gut. So I, of course, started looking for opportunities for that podcast that would, of course, allow me to showcase my expertise. Again, getting in front of other people's audiences. The same can be true if you know a person, and I wouldn't even say influencer, but somebody, of course, that has a following. And you can, of course, take this one freebie and pitch to them and say, look, stress has been a real doozy for people. This can lead to so many issues. And one that we're seeing across the news and we're seeing in newspapers and magazines and, trending is really, how does it affect your immune system? How does it affect your brain health? How does it affect the inflammation in your body? And so you can really position this by taking the guide, looking at the guide as the solution, but really thinking, what are the biggest problems for people? Boosting the immune is the solution. That's the guide we provided with covers, Canva template, social media images. But the problem is what? That they're stressed, that they're finding that they have limited time for self-care. They're finding that maybe even some of their habits that are essential for morning and night, they've slipped by, because that's human nature, is that we often, fall short with our own habits that are really essential when stress comes into our life. So podcast opportunities, doing lives, being interviewed, and again, being able to give this as a gift, further increasing people saying, wow, this is some really high level content. That's when you start to build trust. A person sees you consistently showing up. And then, of course, that can even lead to somebody just sending you a personal message. Hey, I saw you interviewed on X's podcast, or I saw you do a live on Instagram, or I saw you, be interviewed on your Facebook business page with this other person. I would love to talk to you. I'm struggling with the following issues. That personal message or DM, that's a conversation. That is, for those of you either new coaches or you're in a growth phase, that's a discovery call. And the great thing is, once you get that person to actually say, I saw that you did I'm just thinking off the cuff. I saw that you did a post. You were talking last week about how stress has impacted your immune system, your autoimmune, and how it can impact people that have food intolerances, or even, high levels of stress and anxiety. I've been struggling with. And so when that person sees you consistently showing up, and that's why one of the training videos, I literally show you how to, in 15 minutes, to create social media captions and ideas for stories from the content. And that's the thing, when a lot of people come to us and say, well, I could write this myself, or I could create this PowerPoint. Of course you could do it yourself. You're all brilliant. No one doubts that you don't know how to do it. It's about time. So when you think about creating a freebie, getting it edited, written, designed, covers, social media, opt-in page, thank you. I want you to be realistic with how long that would take you to create that. It's not that you can't do it. It's that most of us, as I mentioned when I first started talking 12 minutes ago, we are time deficient. So then we don't become consistent. We don't start really creating that visibility that we need to. We think that if we just post one time, or we spend all this energy to get it all edited, get it all done, and then we don't even have the energy to show up. Because remember, showing up, putting ourselves out there, pitching to podcasts, pitching to people locally requires energy. The last part is you can also, of course, use this list builder to go into Facebook groups. You can go to the admin and say, don't just post and don't be like everyone else. Don't just say, here's a freebie, I'm boosting your immune. Write down, as I discussed in a training for 30 minutes on this download page, how to actually use this to get specific with your message. How to not just edit it and put it out there like everyone else does, but how to really think of your ideal client's biggest problems, that wake-up problem, their worries, like stepping into the psychology of your potential buyer. That's why he or she buys. When we really step back, because we're actually carving space, we're giving ourselves capacity to actually have the ability to step into this person's shoes and say, well, I know my ideal client is struggling with these like 20 symptoms, but I know the thing that's really making them scared or sad or frustrated or overwhelmed is because they can't find the solution and connect their problems to actually connect their problems, such as, why am I having headaches? Why am I waking up during the night? Why am I having rashes? I've never had food allergies or intolerances. Why am I constipated and feel like I have to crack my neck? Why is my eye twitching? Why is my hair falling out? Why is my hair thinning? Why do I have this chronic cold? Why am I eating healthy, doing everything right, but I feel so tired? These are all the things that our ideal client's thinking. She may be, how do I boost my immune? But she's Googling something specific. Why is my immune system so low when I'm taking a probiotic, when I'm doing everything I should be? Really step into the psychology of this person. Imagine yourself going through a 24-hour period with her or with your ideal client, which may be a man, or maybe it's that you work with families, couples. What is your ideal client thinking in their search? And so being able to go into a Facebook admin group and say, I work with people who are struggling with the following issues. It's not uncommon my ideal client has constipation or, IBS, headaches, skin issues, acne breakout, hair falling out. I wanted to come in and talk about boosting the immune, because in here I talk about like chaga and reishi and all these cool, mushrooms that are being advertised left and right. Drop a heart if that just clicked. Is that the way that you turn content into viral content, any content, as long as you are really, the content is applicable to your niche. It solves a problem, it provides a mini solution, and it takes them from the opt-in, phase to that next step that would make sense. But if you sit there and actually say, and I will close with this, and I talked about this in the trainings, if you actually say, where is my ideal client getting their information? Where are they digesting information? This is where it's important to know our ideal client. Like, what TV shows does that person watch? Are they watching the Today Show? Are they watching the news? Where are they influenced in media? And this is when it's really great to even do some market research. Ask some of your friends if they fit your ideal client avatar. Ask in groups, like, where are you getting your information? Do you subscribe to this magazine? Do you watch this TV show? And those can be some really simple questions that you even ask on your personal Facebook page, you ask in a group, because you want to know, where is your person influenced? And once you realize, like, oh, they love watching the Today Show, or do you watch Dr. Oz, or do you watch, what TV shows do you watch, so that you kind of understand like the things that are coming into their zone. Like, do you shop at Whole Foods? Because if you know that person shops at Whole Foods, you'll know in the checkout that they have little reishi packs and chaga packs, and they're talking immune left and right. So when you really start to understand, like, oh my God, does my client know what chaga is? Or do they not know what chaga is? Do they know reishi? Do they not? How am I going to take this free package that Rach gave me, which I can brand it, I can edit it, I can personalize it, I can put my name on it, which was my original mission and the reason that we created the Done For You programs. Is a coach back in the day from IN said to me, how are you getting clients? And I said, because I have a program, a tangible program. I am telling them in my discovery session. And she said, where'd you buy that? I said, well, I bought a program and cried my eyes out because there was a hidden copyright and it came in PowerPoint. And I wasn't so comfortable giving PowerPoint, and it wasn't so much of a succinct step-by-step program. It was a lot of information. And so I created one, and she said, can I buy it? That was the birth of the Done For You programs. It was literally just a moment of me being like, in that moment of heart, like, wow, there's only so many of us like on this mission. What would make it easier for coaches? And so that's where we birth the programs. And it's for you guys to take the content and to spend more time in that exercise of doing the market research, understanding your ideal client, and being able to position that freebie. I'm going to just reiterate it. Position that freebie, knowing what level of information and knowledge does your ideal client have. I too often see somebody who's like, I bought, a workshop from you and somebody didn't sign up. And I said, well, you bought an adrenal fatigue and hormone workshop. That's the problem. That a solution is, of course, addressing the adrenal fatigue. But does your client even know this word, your potential client? Would it be more advantageous for you to message this, keep the content intact, don't spend like 5 hours editing it, let alone the 5 hours it would take to like pull all the content, make it pretty, everything start to finish. Why don't you just look at how you're actually positioning it? And the same goes true for why I just ranted for 20 minutes, which is if you are messaging to people the same as everyone else, guess what? You're not going to set yourself apart. You're not going to be known as the leader in your industry. It doesn't matter if your website is perfect. It doesn't matter if your opt-in page is perfect or you have everything perfectly done. If you cannot nail that understanding of where your ideal client is, what kind of information they already know, you may be making the mistake that the majority of people make, which is to be continually talking to them about words that they don't even know. Don't make the assumption that your ideal client is in the same place. Market research does not have to be difficult. You don't need to read Google Analytics like a pro. I don't. It's not something I do well. I outsource that. And if you want to have somebody to actually look at your Google Analytics, I highly encourage you to maybe find somebody on Upwork. There are a lot of virtual assistant outsourcing places like Pineapple Staffing that you can see. Lot of virtual assistant places that will lead you to high qualified virtual assistants at a low cost, $8 to $10. Once, if you're not making money, it's really difficult to spend $25 to $30 on a virtual assistant. Not telling you that you shouldn't work with the person that you are working with, but take out your calculator. It's why we have a 60, 85, 100K pricing roadmap when you, of course, enter this training, but that doesn't talk about how much outpour. If we were to just say $20 times 10 hours, 200. If you were to say $8 times 20, $10 times 8, yeah, clearly 80, and then do the math. I want you guys to lessen the overwhelm and perfection. I want you to have clear messages. I want you to know how to use our content. It's super easy. And those who do it, like this week's podcast, Rebecca, she has a thriving business. Alkima, who was the podcast the week before, they both shared where they spent their energy. And more was on this outsourcing to make sure that they were spending time in the market research zone. And with conclusion to this, because I get super passionate about how difficult it can be to find the time. And then what? If you don't have the time to consistently show up in the ways that I talked about today, if you don't have time to, of course, pitch and build a referral network, it's going to be the harder path to making a consistent 2, 5, 6, 10K a month. It will actually be almost impossible unless you spend a crap load of money and have teams and make it really complicated. If you are doing market research, just like, and I'm going to say this, if you went to IN or any other school, you usually have to do discovery calls and practice. It ain't no different once you get into business. If you are not consistently having 10 people a month hop on Zoom with you. Reciprocity, meaning tell someone, hop on Zoom. I'm going to give you, an hour of free coaching or 30 minutes of free coaching, or I'm giving you the 7-day program. It's the same as testing your program. Get people on the phone and record it so you can hear how they're telling you the problem. You can ask, just like we talked about, what TV shows do you watch? What magazines do you have coming to your house? Do you work out on Peloton? Do you work out at the gym? Like, what are the things, that you do? Do you take probiotics? Do you know what probiotics are? Do you know what prebiotics are? Do you take any adaptogens? Do you know this word? Have you ever heard of ashwagandha? Like, really going through these questions that you have. A lot of coaches ask me, do you have these types of questions? There are standard open-ended questions you want to ask. Each one of you have to make your own question list based on your ideal client, your avatar, your buyer's persona, and really understand the psychology of the buyer. A good book to buy, where is it? Is Why She Buys. And it will give you, of course, some great strategies, but you can also go Google, which is your first virtual assistant, your business coach, your BFF, your tech support, and just say open-ended questions to ask for market research, for researching with my ideal client avatar. And the last part of that is, even if you don't know what questions to ask, guess what? Do it scared, do it anyway. Tell people, hey, can we get on the phone? I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and I would love for you to tell me some of your biggest struggles, obstacles, and like why you haven't achieved X health goal. What gets in the way? Hear how they're telling you the problems. You take the problem and you make it a product. And so I just wanted to jump in here, full throttle and full transparency. I needed to take like the last 2 weeks to just focus on this. And I wasn't as visible on social media, and I wasn't doing as many trainings. I just didn't have the bandwidth, which is something that I have been working on my whole life to create these healthy boundaries for myself. I share that with you because if you're exhausted, overwhelm and panic is going to be there. If you're exhausted, fried, you're living in paralysis, and you're just feeling stressed, it's better to take time away. Say, you know what? I'm going to take 2 days to like not be online as much, which again, we told you about the different way, reaching out to people you already know and who already believe in you, and asking even, them, can we get on the phone? I would love to ask, I know that you've been struggling with 1, 2, 3 issues. I would love to get to know more. I'm building my business. I'm really super scared, and I feel like I'm at a standstill, and what will help me have forward momentum is, of course, asking some key questions so that you actually have that energy to be able to be grounded. If we are all over the place and we're stressed, we can't hear anyway. This is the essentials of being a digital marketer in this age. You have to really know your ideal client. You have to know their big fears, their struggles, and most importantly, their obstacles in a world of information. Why aren't they getting healthy? Is it overwhelm? Is it time? Is it stress? Is it trauma? Like, what's stopping them from doing the right thing? I think this is the human condition. This is why living a healthy life is so hard, because human condition is we will fall short for our own issues. So I say that because don't overthink this. Make sure that you always give yourself time to really sit in soul, sit in spirit, tap into that intuition, because that's always what I've done. I've always just stepped into the shoes of my ideal client, like really felt the pain, felt what they would be possibly searching for, really stepped into these different ideal client avatar, personalities. And that's really important for us, even if we don't know all this marketing verbiage, for you to understand that not everyone is the same. They can have the same problems, but even each person, depending on their personality, their constitution, their life, the responsibilities on their plate, we all know every human being deals with it differently. And that's why knowing your ideal client and really carving out that space for you to look at content, not as just, oh, I'm going to get this out, I got to build my list. When you take that time, and it doesn't take a long time, give yourself 1 week and commit to it. I dare you to literally say, I am going, put that in the world, out in the world. I'm going to get 10 people on a Zoom call. I'm going to figure out how to reach out in these groups. I'm going to stop living in the excuse zone. And I am going to be so aligned with my purpose, so aligned with my why. I'm going to remember my own pain. I'm going to think about all the things that if it was my own issue, what was I Googling? Where were my biggest frustrations? Where were my fears? Your ideal client isn't necessarily just you, but in that process of you being honest with yourself, you're going to have a pretty clear understanding of where is your ideal client failing in their life, what's getting in the way. So with that being said, guys, I hope this was clear. I know I actually covered a lot. I wish I could be that person that just covered one thing, but that's not how building a business is. Like, it's not. Amen. Declare it. And guys, when I say declare it, that means that you put it down. Even if you're in a membership group or you're working with a coach, you say, that's it. By the end of this week or by the end of next week, I'm going to have 10 people. I'm putting that out there, and start seeing these people. Seeing these people come and be like, oh my God, yes, thank God you asked. I've been struggling. You got to see it. You have to believe it. And that's how we have law of attraction and manifesting. So make sure that you download this, come into our free group. I am going to be actually breaking down how to use that guide even deeper. And of course, make sure to access the training on how do you create your freebies? How do you create your workshops? What are these simple steps so we can get out of our way and do the work we need to do? I mean, if there hasn't been a moment of wake up, it's this. The same way I felt 10 years ago when I built my business in a recession. Doesn't mean we're in a recession, but it means in times of uncertainty, and when we're hearing these words on Squawk Box or marketing channels or the news, and a lot of fear is coming in, people what? People fall short, they get stressed, they go into panic, and all people right now are feeling that. It's our job to speak to our ideal client and help them understand how to come out of whatever their hell is. And the only way we do that is to get clear and be totally aligned with ourselves, aligned with our ICA, have empathy, and to show up without hesitation. So with that being said, guys, let's do this. I'm now going to go work out because I have to hold myself accountable. And I hope that you do the same. Peace, love, get your shit right. And I promise you, you will be able to show up even with no blueprint. That is exactly what my past two guests on Healthy Hustle podcast talked about specifically. With that being said, peace out. No makeup. Going on to do things with my bad self. And I will see you guys later. Mwah.